Today we are going to work on our lesson plan for February 27th. We are in the Hall of Fame and Shame series. First week was family service with Pastor Mark talking about Abram and that he is in the Hall of Fame for obeying God and leaving Ur without knowing where he was going. And then also when he chose to recognize Melchizedek as a high priest, as a priest, and so tithed to him out of faith. So we talked about them the first week. Then the second week, last week, we talked about Hannah and Elkanah, and then ultimately Eli and Samuel, and each of their roles and why they may be considered in the Hall of Fame, Mark's Hall of Fame. So this week we are going to talk about Esther, Hadassah, and we will actually probably start with a video. It's about, I think it was 7 or 8 minutes long, kind of overview, and then we'll read the text. And so it'll be a lot of text, but it will back up the video that they watched. So I will read that. Esther starting in 3, and we won't read the whole book, so it's chunks out of different chapters. Starting chapter 3, verse 8. Then Haman said to Xerxes, "Certain people are scattered among the nations. They live in all the territories in your kingdom. They keep themselves separate from everyone else. Their practices are different from the practices of all other people. They don't obey your laws. It really is not good for you to put up with them. If it pleases you, give the order to destroy them. I'll even add 375 tons of silver to the king's officials for the royal treasures." So the king took his ring off his finger. The ring had his royal seal on it. He gave the ring to Haman. Haman was the son of the Agagite. Haman was the enemy of the Jews. "Keep the money," the king said to Haman. "Do what you want with these people." The king commanded the messengers to go out. So they did. The order was sent out from the fort of Susa. Then the king and Haman sat down and drank wine. But the people in the city were bewildered. Fast forward to chapter 4, verse 1. Mordecai found out everything that had been done, so he tore his clothes. He put on the rough clothing people wear when they're sad. He sat down in ashes. Then he went out into the city. He wept out loud. He cried bitter tears. But he only went as far as the palace gate. That's because no one dressed in that rough clothing was allowed to go through it. All the Jews were very sad. They did not eat anything. They wept and they cried, and many of them put on the rough clothing people wear when they're sad. They were lying down in ashes. They did all these things in every territory when the king's order and the law had been sent out. Esther's words were reported to Mordecai. Just fast forwarding to verse 12. Then he sent back an answer. He said, "You live in the king's palace, but don't think that just because you are there, you will be the only Jew who will escape. What if you don't say anything at this time? Then help for the Jews will come from another place. But you and your family will die. Who knows? It is possible that you became a queen for a time just like this." Then Esther sent a reply to Mordecai. She said, "Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for my benefit. Don't eat or drink anything for 3 days. Don't do it night or day. I and my attendants will fast just as you do. Then I will go to the king. I'll do it even though it is against the law. And if I have to die, I'll die." So Mordecai went away, and he carried out all Esther's directions. Going to chapter 7. So the king and Haman went to Queen Esther's feast. They were drinking wine on the second day. The king again asked, "What do you want, Queen Esther? I will give it to you. What do you want me to do for you? I'll even give you up to half of my kingdom." Then Queen Esther answered, "Your Majesty, I hope you will be pleased to let me live. That's what I want. Please spare my people. That is my appeal to you. My people and I have been sold to be destroyed. We've been sold to be killed and wiped out. Suppose we had only been sold as male and female slaves, and then I would not have said anything. That kind of suffering wouldn't be a good enough reason to bother you." King Xerxes asked Queen Esther, "Who is the man who has dared to do such a thing, and where is he?" Esther said, "The man hates us. He is our enemy. He is this evil Haman." Then Haman was terrified in front of the king and queen. And then I would encourage the kiddos to actually read the whole book because it's got lots of details that are both interesting and disgusting. The video will cover the first part as well of who Esther is and how she became queen and all of that. So then the questions, as always, would be who from this text should be in the Hall of Fame and why. And so we would then talk about Mordecai and Esther and their faith and what they did. How Mordecai's behavior was respectful and upright even when Haman was abusing him on a regular basis, bullying him. And Esther, she submitted to the whole beauty pageant queenie thing. And while that doesn't seem hard, that was certainly separate from Mordecai and had to hide who she was. And then her bravery in choosing to go ahead and address the king, though that didn't happen until Mordecai encouraged and pushed her, which we all need sometimes, is that person that goes, really? Do you think? So application activity will be talking about, it'll be kind of a, not quite charades, but enacting things out, doing the right hard thing. And so lots of times we're in situations where there are hard things to be done. And the question is, which one's the right one for me? Going back to giving your life and knowing what your God job is. Not worrying about what their God job is or how God tells them to do that God job, but how you are supposed to do yours. So doing the right hard thing. What's the right thing for you to do in this moment? So in the a couple of scenarios, and depending on how many leaders we have for each group will depend on how case scenarios and how many options there are. So for instance, they're going to act out. So we'll act it out a piece at a time and then freeze. Discuss it, move to the next part, freeze. So there's a bully in the art room. Who's involved? What happens? 3 minutes to act it out. So start a timer. They're just pretending they're in an art room, acting it out. Or there's a bully on the playground. So whatever this is, they're acting it out for 3 minutes. Timer goes off, they freeze. The question is, what's the solution? What do you do? Because don't let them solve it in the first 3 minutes. The first 3 minutes is there's a bully actively bullying someone, and there are other people around as well. So time starts. Don't give any instructions. Don't give any ideas. Wait for the kids to come up with their stuff. So you give them 3 minutes again, then it's freeze. So what were the solutions? Because there are many possible solutions. Some of them good, some of them bad. There are multiple good solutions. There are also multiple bad solutions. So have them talk through what were the solutions that they each came up with and they tried and different things. So then have them discuss, were any of the solutions bad? Were any of the ones that really, no, we don't tackle the bully and beat him to death, her to death. And then were any of the solutions good? Then were any of those solutions more right than another one? And were all of the good solutions good for each person to handle the same exact way? And then just kind of going into what we talked about of, no, they should respond the way the Spirit gifted them and prompted them to respond. So if the Spirit prompted one person to go get an adult and bring an adult in, that's what they should do. That's not necessarily the right solution for everybody. Somebody else, Spirit might have prompted them to go get the person or people that were being bullied and go, hey, come play with us, and just shift the attention. So there are things, and there's more than one right way. And that's what we're trying to look at. For Esther, Mordecai's job was to notify Esther of what was going on, because she lived in this palace where she didn't necessarily hear everything. She didn't know what was happening in the street. So it was Mordecai's job to tell her. It was Esther's job to act on it. And she did. And Mordecai might have acted a different way if he was the one in the palace. A different woman may have responded a different way. It doesn't matter. She did what she felt like God told her to do, and God honored that. So that is today's lesson. Oh, no. Yeah, that's it. That was your link. Thanks, guys. Thanks for leaving.